it's Linda Fox. I'm senior reporter with PhocusWire, and I'm here with Raullen. He's co-founder of IoTex and somewhat of a security expert. So thanks for joining us, Raullen. So
yes, thanks, Linda. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So companies saw an increased kind of fraud attacks at the beginning of the pandemic. And in the travel space, it was around refunds. And I just wondered if you thought they would again see increased activity as we come out of the pandemic.
Yeah, definitely. I think they will see, or maybe they already see, like a ongoing fraud right now, because the demand and fraud, they're always correlated. As we can see, the traveling business is actually, recovering from the COVID-19. More and more people just want to get out of door. So definitely, like there are limited supply of, for example, hotels or maybe air flights. So that's a very good chance for scammers, come to the market trying to, scam with people with something fake, right? For example, like a few days, I saw Airbnb. So they have a bunch of fake listings because they don't have enough people to verify each of the listing of the house. That's a very good example, kind of demand and fraud, they are correlated.
Yeah, we have definitely seen with in the past various articles about vacation rental fraudulent listings. So that's an interesting one. Do you think there'll be other kind of types of fraud in travel? Other kind of perhaps directed at sort of booking surges, because it's bound to see that. So perhaps kind of trying to hack those areas. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think another very. So for example, if you travel abroad, maybe to certain countries, you will have to prove you got vaccinated. But apparently not a lot of people get vaccinated. That's why, so there, people are just cheating the system, maybe gaming the system a little bit. That's another type of fraud. It's not, it's not too vital, but at the same time, they can spread out like the COVID-19 in a way.
And why do you think travel companies saw increased fraud during the pandemic? Was it because, hackers had more time on their hands and they saw that these companies were vulnerable? What do you think the reasons were?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question, right? So the general trend, as we can see, is, people are moving their activities more to the online systems. For example, if you stay at home, you have to work remotely, you have to do your shopping remotely, see the movies remotely, everything is remote. I think this is like also, that's why like a hacker, of course, a very good time for them because everything is just moving to online. Particularly for the traveling system, of course, as a hacker, right, it's a business, time for them just to hack into some travel companies and trying to be there for a time when the demands come up, so they can trying to hack the systems. Yeah, they're very juicy target for the hackers.
Okay, and we'll come back to that in a few minutes. But when you look at protecting systems, how should travel companies go about protecting their systems? And let's divide that into two areas. Let's start with, how would they start, with small steps to protect their systems? What are the sorts of things that they can do?
Yeah, I think that's a question actually regarding the common security practice for protecting the enterprise systems, right? So that's, I think I got a lot of experience because I work at Google, leading a team, doing Google, lots of security initiatives, Google, and also work at Uber. So that's why I get some exposure to the travel business as well. Where I lead a team, do the security, credential management for Uber at that time. Yeah, that's a very good step. The baby steps is actually, very simple. So they have to hardening their systems, meaning they have to set up their firewall, upgrade their software, maybe have an internal scanner to scan their entire system to see where is missing, what is vulnerable, and they can probably hire a third-party vendors to do some sort of security assessment about their systems, about their identity, credential, and make sure everything's all right. I think that's kind of very feasible baby steps here.
Okay, and then if we go on to the kind of bigger steps, if a scanner and employing an outside consultant and a firewall, if those are the kind of baby steps, what are the bigger steps that they need to be taking?
Yeah, then I think every company should probably think about like the paradigm shifting here, as we can see, right? So for now, everybody just owns the full stack of the system. They have their business logic on the very top. They have some sort of authentication, access control, identity storage, networking. Everything is stacking up like this. But however, small vendors, they cannot taking care of like the entire big stack, right? So I think like the model we are seeing this year is they can outsourcing like those very low layers to like a cloud computing company. So they can use some sort of SaaS business to further harden themselves, or they can move some of the things to blockchain, which offers identity, payment, lots of things over there as well. So that's kind of bigger steps.
Yeah, that is definitely bigger steps and more investment required. How do companies spot when something is wrong? What are the sort of signs that they might see that something is going wrong with their system security?
That's a good question. So yeah, of course, if they see like their balance is returning to zero, that's a very very big sign for something is going wrong. But
or if they get a ransom note.
Ransom note, like a blackmailing
that might be
email.
An indication. Yeah.
Right. But generally, like we want to prevent things, even before that. So they should like install some monitoring system to implement some sort of security response protocol. If bad thing happens, who should I talk with? Who should I talk to? Which server I should turn off? Things like that. Of course, like a regular kind of checkup for the system to make sure everything is in place. I think it's also very important.
Okay. I think in the past, sort of security experts said to me that, one indication might be a sort of sudden booking surge to one particular area, or, a whole group of tickets to one particular area. Is that something that you might have seen in the past?
Yeah, of course. Every kid wants to return to Disneyland, right? At this stage. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see like a spike like this on the Disney system. Yeah, but yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. That's kind of like a good problem to have for the Disneyland, but sometimes hard for the IT systems.
Yeah, to spot. Yeah. Okay. So now, obviously, you might recall that Marriott with the Star Wars systems was victim of quite a big attack affecting many millions of records back in 2018. So, what would make one company more attractive than another when it comes to, this kind of activity?
Yeah, thinking from the hackers, putting myself into hackers' shoes, right? So definitely I want a juicy target, meaning like this system, this travel business is making a lot of money. So that's why we call it juicy. And second, so they have a very legacy system, meaning they are probably using some technology like a 20, 30 years old, which is full of vulnerability, right? So that's where I got a chance to get into. And third one is their people lack the common sense for security. That's basically back to your previous question. So if bad thing happens, they don't know, right? So I can't just be there for like a really long time, just hacking all the things I want to hack. So I think that's kind of the target for hackers. And thinking from the other side, that's where exactly the companies should be aware of, like to do some sort of investment into. One, of course, is train their people to make sure everybody have this sort of sense of security. If they see some red flags, don't hesitate, just report, right? Or they should have some sort of system and regular checkup in place. If something bad happens, they know what they want to do.
And is it easy for a hacker to spot, and this is something I don't know, so is it easier for a hacker to spot that it is a legacy system?
It is very easy. So there are like a sort of scanners. Scanner is like a very small computer programs, right? So they just scan on the internet all the day. They probably have like 1,000 scanners working at the same time, scanning all the computer servers that's actually running in the world, right? So it's easy for them to say, oh, for example, this company has a very legacy system. It's like a Windows 95, for example. Yeah, so that's where they're getting.
Okay, that sounds like a lot of computing power for our, let's call them badass actors.
Exactly.
So then, I'm guessing that it's companies with high volumes of transactions, sometimes high monetary transactions. So these are the sorts of things that would make them vulnerable and attractive. So what's the initial process? I mean, you mentioned there, tell someone or flag who it is, that they should tell? Perhaps there's something initially to switch off. What's that initial process once it kicks in?
Yeah, so yeah, of course, I think it's still like you see some metrics that gets abnormal. I think that's the first thing you should look at your systems, right? Then I think the next one is if you've got some complaints from customers, for example, if this doesn't work, that doesn't work, or even from internal employees saying, oh, why my computer is so slow? Why, this website asks me to put in password all the day? Or is there like a stranger, you get some email from a stranger, asking some credential information from you? I think those are all signals.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Yeah. Okay. And then immediately you need to think, okay, who do I tell? What do I switch off? Yeah, as you said before, the red flags. Now, you've worked for large companies, as we said, in and out of travel. So what would you say are the most common mistakes that companies make when they're approaching kind of a system, their system security?
Yeah, that's a really good one. In a sense, security is like an insurance, right? So company usually do some sort of investment into security, probably $1 million per year, and nothing happened. Then they will have some sort of illusion thinking, oh, I'm wasting my money. Security is not important, right? I put in 1 million, I got nothing. But no, it's not. It's not like this. It's wrong, right? So the really question is, like, if you don't have enough investment into security, something very bad will happen. For example, as we can see, like the data leak from lots of big companies. I don't want to mention name here. They're in probably like a retail space, in the credit score space. Lots of data gets leaked. Basically, if that thing happens, that damages your company fundamentally in terms of your revenue, your reputation, your customers. Yeah. So that's why, like, I think a common mistake is not enough security investment into security.
Okay, interesting. And we've seen obviously huge increase in working from home and virtual events in the past 15 months. So has that increased the security risk? I know in the early days of the pandemic, there were stories about the virtual systems being hacked. So has that kind of increased security risks for companies generally?
Yeah, it is. So in security, we call something like attacks, like a surface of attacks, meaning like how much exposures you have to the attackers, right? So definitely, if you work from office, you use your company's computer, company's network, you are always protected, by something. But if you work remotely, then that's totally different story. You use your own network, maybe your own laptop. Then yeah, of course, like a hacker has more chance here. So they can, I think I saw a news like a few days ago, someone just stealing the password from an employee that they just get into a very big company system and, just mess up everything over there. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned stealing the password from an employee, because you also get kind of employees who are very unhappy and they might, have the keys to the system. That's a big issue, isn't it? Tell us a bit about that.
That's a very good one. So that's also like another vector for the attacking, right? So yeah, so there are some unhappy employees. So they will be easily tricked into doing something that's against the company's interest. For example, they can be phished, right? So there is like a fake website. They don't want to pay any attention. They're just giving their password out. Everything screwed up. Or like even like the employee, they can steal something from the company because they're using their laptop, their network. So it makes sense easier. Like we saw like ADT, probably they just have some employees spying on their users' cameras, and yeah, so that's like something very bad.
So it could be I don't know, it could be, as we've just said, an employee. It could be someone who's stolen their password. Who else? Because you hear stories about, other countries, and why would they want all of the data from, say, a hotel reservation system, and what would they be wanting to do with it?
Oh, yes. So I think those data are very valuable. For example, they have people's name, phone number, residential address, even some social security number, credit card number. I think a lot of information are actually over there. So that's a very high valuable set of data. Yeah, everybody wants it, in the hackers world.
And what would they do with it?
So they can do some fraud. For example, they can use like the others' credit card to purchase something online, mostly like a gift card. So that's why they can just expense this gift card without much trace, and also they can do some sort of like a profiling. What they call profiling is, so they know who you are, what's your age, what do you like, what you don't like, where do you live, what's your preference in terms of your political preference. Then they can just try to sell you something, probably unconsciously to you, right? So that's a very secondary kind of damage that we will have.
Like messages on social media that we heard through the elections and those kind of things.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So I'm interested to know that when you were at Uber and Google, these massive multinational companies, and you were in charge of security and very much involved in security there, what stopped you from sleeping at night when you thought about the security of the systems?
The unpredictability, right? So because security like something you never know what we're gonna go wrong in the next second. Yeah, so that's why those big companies, they implemented a very complicated protocols. So while I'm sleeping, so there are definitely people who's awake. So they're watching all the systems all the time. If bad thing happens, they have a chain to report, all the way up probably to the VP of the company. And there are some sort of measurements. So they will try it out first. First, maybe cut off the network. Second, maybe turn off the system, maybe switch to a backup system, things like that. Yeah.
Okay. So just kind of one final thing here as we come to a close. I feel like I see every week maybe 1, 2, 3 announcements of funding going into security, fraud, cybersecurity companies. Why is that right now? Why is it so attractive for investment right now?
Like I said, right? So security is basically like a big part for running business. For example, for Uber, right? When I was at Uber at that time, there are so many fraud at the very beginning. Why? Because Uber gave lots of incentives to driver at the very beginning. So if you drive maybe 100 rides per day, I don't know the exact number, probably like 20 rides per day. So I will give you like an extra $100 type of thing, right? To drivers to incentivize them to do the Uber business. Yeah. At the same time, like lots of fraud scammers, so they are just gamify the system. So they're not driving 100 rides every day, but they pretend, they just cheat the system in a way, which, makes Uber basically lose a lot of money on that front. Yeah. So that's
so lots and lots of different frauds coming to the fore. And that's why we're getting lots of startups in the area.
Yeah. So instead of losing 10 millions for example, right, for Uber, by doing this, why shouldn't I invest probably 1 million into a company or maybe a technology that will prevent the happening of this? That's kind of their logic behind.
Okay, no, that's good to know. And just one final thing, without giving any secrets away, how much do you think of their kind of, I guess, technology budget maybe a company should devote to security, protecting their systems?
Yeah, it's hard to say, right? Because different companies have different focus on different things. But I think a very ballpark number is probably 5 to 10% of their revenue should go to security, IT systems, try to make everything just up and running.
And in your experience, how much do they invest in their security systems?
It's hard to tell an exact number. Like I said, it's a percentage wise probably makes more sense because different size of the company means a different size of the budget here. Yeah, usually absolutely. 10 to 5%. Yeah, 10 to 5% should be good.
Okay. So you think that they're probably investing at the right level right now?
Yes.
Okay, Raullen Chai, thank you for joining us. That's Raullen. He's co-founder of IoTex. And next up, my colleague Mitra Sorrells is going to be talking to Paravision, and the session is on biometrics in security. Raullen, thank you again.
Thank you so much, Linda. Have a nice day.